Hi guys, welcome back to Heritage Homestead. If you're new here, my name is Marta and I'm in year 2 as a suburban homesteader. I just love sharing with you all things gardening, preserving, and cooking. So today we're going to make some DIY pantry staples because I have a few empty jars on my shelf that I want to refill. We're going to make some of the things that I like the best and I tend to keep on hand. So we're going to make some seasoning mixes, including seasoned salt, taco seasoning, and Creole seasoning. We'll also make some pancake or waffle mix, some homemade vanilla, which we won't be able to enjoy for a couple months, but I'll be glad to know it's steeping. And then we'll make some homemade hot chocolate mix and finish up with homemade Caesar salad dressing. If you stick around to the end, I'll show you a way that I like to use the Caesar salad dressing that you may not have tried before. When I first started making some of my own pantry staples, it was honestly because we were on a tight grocery budget. So the savings was the appeal for me. Now I continue to do it because of the ability to control the ingredients in my food. If you take a close look at the ingredient lists on a lot of the pantry staples that we might be buying, things like taco seasoning, you might find that the ingredients are just not clean. For example, if you take a look at this packet of Old El Paso taco seasoning, the first ingredient is cornstarch. It's not really a seasoning, it's a filler. The third ingredient's maltodextrin. That's a sweetener and it's highly processed. And then if you keep looking down the list, silicone dioxide is a preservative, natural flavor, which is an umbrella term that can refer to a lot of things, but they're all highly processed and usually hard on bodies to digest. So we can keep things super clean and super flavorful if you just make it ourselves. So we're gonna start with seasoned salt. It's just 4 ingredients, obviously salt, paprika, garlic powder, and onion powder. I'm gonna double this recipe, so I'm starting with 2/3 cup salt. That way I won't have to make it again anytime soon. Seasoned salt is something I use anytime I would just sprinkle salt onto a food. So for example, in the morning when I make my eggs, I might sprinkle on some seasoned salt. Or for dinner, I often make veggies that I cook in olive oil or butter. That's a great chance to just sprinkle in on seasoned salt instead, and it's just a little bit more flavorful. So because I'm doubling, I'm gonna do 2 tablespoons paprika. Oop, it's gonna be 2 generous tablespoons. That's all right. Oh, geez. There we go. 4 teaspoons onion powder. This recipe describes seasoned salt as the seasoning you didn't know you needed in your life. And I think that's true. I started using it about a year ago, and that's exactly how I felt. It was never on my radar. And now I, make note when I'm out of seasoned salt. I'm like, oh, it's time to stock that up again. So I'm just going to shake this up to blend it. I'm using these wooden lids for all of the jars. I really like these because I can get them off faster when I'm cooking than I could if I were using the screw top lids. I used to use those screw top lids and now I've switched to this. They also just look really pretty. I like seeing them on my shelf. That should last for a while. This will sit next to my stove. Next up is taco seasoning. This is kind of the gateway seasoning blend, I find. This is one of the first blends that I started making on my own, and it seems to be the case for a lot of others as well. It's a great starting point for replacing some packaged foods with homemade. So I'm octupling this recipe, octupling. I'm not sure what the term is when you take something times 8. But the recipe happens to be for a small amount, and I don't want to have to make this again in a week or 2. So we're starting with a 1/2 cup of chili powder, then a 1/3 cup cumin. And I'll link all these recipes below, of course. So if the amounts that I say aren't right for the type of batch that you want to do, you can just reference the original. 8 teaspoons salt, so that's going to be 2 tablespoons, 2 teaspoons. Wow, we are tearing through the salt today. And the same amounts for pepper. I just ground this morning in my Ninja Bullet, and it is really nice to not be standing with a pepper grinder cracking pepper. So that's 2 tablespoons, 2 teaspoons. Oop, we'll call that 2. Need 4 teaspoons paprika. 1, 2, 3, 4. I like seeing the colors on these layers. 4 teaspoons garlic powder. And the same for onion powder. 4 teaspoons crushed red pepper. And finally, 4 teaspoons oregano. It reminds me of those sand art projects that were popular when I was a kid. All right, time to shake it up. This should last us several months. I'm glad to have that. And finally, we're gonna make a Creole seasoning blend. This is one that I don't necessarily use often, but I still like to have on hand because I do use it kind of regularly. I'm starting with 5 tablespoons paprika. It's too spicy for my kids, but every now and then John and I like to have our own Creole or Cajun night after the kids are in bed. To the paprika, I'm adding 3 tablespoons salt. 2 tablespoons onion powder. Onion and garlic are just good with everything. 2 tablespoons garlic powder. I've been thinking about maybe trying to make my own garlic powder this year. I've never done it before. I use so much of it, and I really like growing garlic. Maybe I'll give it a shot. If you've tried making it, tell me if you think it was worth the trouble. 2 tablespoons oregano. 2 tablespoons basil. This is left from the summer garden. A tablespoon of thyme. Tablespoon of that freshly ground black pepper. This next ingredient's a novelty. I don't always keep it on hand, but a tablespoon of white pepper. It does add a different flavor. It's really good. I actually bought this for a cookie recipe I made last Christmas. Kind of novel to be putting white pepper into cookies. And then finally a tablespoon of cayenne. Nope, that was a generous tablespoon. All right. It's our Cajun seasoning blend. Cover it up and give it a shake. Here's what it looks like when it's all combined. So that's seasoned salt, taco seasoning, and Creole seasoning. And I have put tape on the bottom of these. This will help me keep things straight. Next up is pancake mix or waffle mix, and I've got a gluten-free option for you. So this can start with 5 cups of flour. I'm gonna start with 5 cups of oat flour. I used to use King Arthur measure for measure flour in just about any recipe that called for flour, and it tasted good, it worked well, but it's expensive and it usually comes in small quantities. It seemed like I was constantly needing to buy more. So I've really been enjoying experimenting with oat flour lately. I can make it myself. I always have oats on hand, and I've found that this recipe works nicely with oat flour and it gives it a good flavor. It does change the flavor, but my family and I like it. So that's 5 cups freshly ground oat flour. You could also, of course, use all-purpose flour. To that, I'm adding 1 1/4 cups powdered milk. I'm using powdered whole milk. Then 1/4 cup sugar. This is the sugar I get from Azure. Isn't it pretty? I need to get more soon. I've got an order coming in this month. Then a 1/4 cup baking powder. I also get this from Azure. Finally, a tablespoon of salt. And then I'll just whisk this all together. Breakfast is one of the meals that I find, I don't know, difficult with my kids. My daughter's allergic to eggs, and so, you know, I'd envisioned having chickens and giving my kids scrambled eggs every morning, but that's not happening for us. And what breakfast has turned into is cereal for my kids. So I would love to start their days with more protein and then something at least scratch made if it's going to be starchy. I've only been keeping this on hand for a couple weeks now, but once or twice a week I get up and I feel like I can make waffles. Yeah, all I have to do is add a few wet ingredients. Just having these few steps taken care of really has made a difference for me. There's our pancake/waffle blend. To make pancakes or waffles, start by measuring out 2 cups of the mix. Then you'll add 1 cup of water, or if you're going for the gluten-free oat flour option, I've found it works better with 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of water. Next, you'll add in an egg, and finally 2 tablespoons of oil for pancakes and 3 tablespoons for waffles. I am a waffle person simply because I just don't like standing over the stove flipping pancake after pancake. Pouring a bit of batter in a waffle iron feels much easier to me. As an aside, I mentioned earlier that the oat flour gives us a really nice flavor, and it does, but it does change the texture a bit. You'll find that the texture is a little less stretchy and bound together. Because it's missing that gluten, it's a little more crumbly, but as an added bonus, it's also a little more filling because you're getting the whole grain here. This next recipe is the easiest that we'll be making today. It's just 2 ingredients. We've got vanilla beans and vodka. So yes, we're making vanilla extract. If you're curious about the beans, these are Madagascar vanilla beans that I got on Amazon. I thought they were pretty reasonably priced. This is 10 pods. And then for vodka, you want to buy the cheapest vodka you can find because the quality of the vodka doesn't really impact the flavor very much here. The lead actor is the vanilla. This is not the cheapest vodka I can find. I sent John out to get some vodka last night, and this is what he came back with. I should have told him to get bottom shelf, but that's okay because I don't think we'll use all of it. So this will become cocktails. I'm just going to open up this bag, and then I'm going to slice these pods open down the middle. Oh, they smell good. It's recommended to use 4 to 6 bean pods for every 8 ounces of alcohol that you're using to make the extract. So I'm going to fill a 16-ounce bottle today. I've got 10 pods. That works perfectly because it's sort of a double batch. You can see if I open it up, there's those good seeds. That's the stuff you see in vanilla bean ice cream. All 10 beans have now been split open, exposing those seeds. So they're all going into the bottle. It smells so good in here. Then I'm just filling up with vodka. I don't trust myself pouring directly into the bottle. I have these funnels from kombucha brewing days. It is important that the pods be fully submerged, otherwise they could be subject to spoiling. So you can see there's my pods, there's my liquid. So I'm going to give this a little shake, give it a head start, and then maybe once a week or so, as I see it on my shelf, I'll just give it a shake again. I'm going to put it in a dark place. I want it to avoid light, and then it'll taste best in 6 months, but I can start using it in maybe 2 to 3 months. I'll give it a taste in 2 months and see how we're doing. This next recipe uses a bit of vanilla. I'll have to use my store-bought vanilla for now, and that's homemade cocoa mix. So I like a really rich hot cocoa, and I know we're out of hot cocoa prime season right now, but we're still drinking it in the spring. So I'm going to use cacao powder. You can also, of course, use cocoa powder. I like this because it's got lots of antioxidants. So I'm starting with a 1/2 cup of cacao. I love that Ball puts measurements on their jars. I use these all the time when I'm making salad dressings and things like this cocoa mix. So I know that 1/2 cup is right up to that line. Then I'm adding a 1/2 cup maple syrup. Again, it's nice to not have to measure here, get anything dirty. Next is 2 teaspoons vanilla. And then I'm gonna add just a dash of salt. You could skip that, but I think a little salt just brings everything to life. And what I've got now is a wet mixture that I can stir into milk and pop into the microwave for some really rich, good hot cocoa. The cocoa mix is stored in the fridge, and then when it's time for hot cocoa, I warm up a cup of milk in the microwave and add 3 tablespoons of the mixture. If you like a lighter hot cocoa, you might be happy with 2 tablespoons. Sometimes the kids each get a glass of this while I have my tea. I keep moving to a new spot in the kitchen because wherever I was is now too dirty to work. So this is our last station, last recipe for the day, Caesar salad dressing. Here's our lineup of ingredients. So we've got 2 garlic cloves, anchovy paste. This is the reason that I didn't make my own Caesar salad dressing for so long. I didn't want to buy a novel ingredient. I discovered it's definitely worth it though. Lemon juice, Dijon mustard, Worcestershire, good mayo, salt, pepper, parm. So I'm just going to mince some garlic. This garlic is going in my jar, along with a teaspoon of anchovy paste. It does smell fishy. 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, freshly squeezed. Sometimes I use bottled lemon juice because I don't feel like squeezing a lemon, but I think I can taste the difference in this recipe. A teaspoon Dijon, a teaspoon Worcestershire, 1/4 teaspoon salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon pepper. I'm going to get this fully combined before I add in the mayo and cheese. All right, adding in a cup of mayo. And finally a 1/2 cup parm. The recipe calls for freshly grated, which makes sense, but I've found that I'm able to incorporate it best if I just used one of these Parmesan bottles. Here's what the texture and color looks like now that it's all thoroughly mixed up. This tastes so much better than anything you can buy at the store. To me, it's worth the random tube of anchovy paste that I now keep in my fridge. So this of course makes a great salad dressing, but I also love to use it on chicken. So I'm going to use the Caesar salad dressing to season these chicken breasts. I'm going to put a tablespoon on each side. And these happen to be thin chicken breasts, but if you have something super thick, I suggest butterflying it or pounding it with a meat tenderizer, because you want something that's even thickness and maybe 1/2 inch thick. And I'm going to flip them over, and we're going to do a tablespoon on each side again. And this is going into the oven at 375. In 20 minutes, the chicken was cooked through and ready to eat. So this chicken is nicely seasoned by the dressing and can be eaten with anything. In the evening, I might have this with pasta. Today, we're having it for lunch over salad greens. Thanks for joining me for this day of restocking my kitchen with some staples that are made from good, clean ingredients. I'm curious if there's anything I didn't include that you absolutely love to make and keep on hand. I'm also curious if there's something else that you'd like me to include. Maybe we can add that to a future video. I invite you to subscribe if you want to join me for more projects like this, and I look forward to sharing more with you next week. Bye.